Yeah, '02 Chevy Silverado. We're gonna do a hub assembly wheel bearings for you real quick. Got the lug nuts off. Those were 3/4, 19 mil. Got a 36 millimeter. We're just gonna zip that axle nut off. Got a little washer in here. All right, that's out of the way. This side had a T55 for the caliper bolts. The other side was 18 millimeters, so I don't know why they're different. Replacement, something like that. Anyways, we'll just zip that off real quick. We got an 18 millimeter on the caliper mounting bracket and a 15 millimeter on the hub bolts. Pop this caliper off of here. It's not just gonna pop off, you need to pry back. We're gonna get in the slots of the rotor and just press back a little bit, compress that piston. Now it should come off. Hang your rotor up. And we got our 18 millimeter. Don't let that fall. You might have to hammer your rotor off. This one's just falling apart. Now we got to press our CV axle back. This one is just going straight back for us. That's beautiful. Sometimes you got to put a hammer and chisel in that little point there, or an air chisel to break it free. Oh boy. Alright, came out. Sweet. Now I'm going to turn the wheel the other way. See if I can get a straight shot on this. Is that a crack in my socket? I don't think it's just a scratch. I don't think it's a crack. All right, we can't really get on this one, so we're gonna need an extender. Or use a ratchet to get on it. So close. There we go. Oh, come on, baby. You don't want to strip these bad boys out. That's for sure. And this, the back of this bolt is worn out pretty good. The 15's kind of sloppy on it. This hub has been changed before. So the 9/16 kind of wants to go on it. We're going to use a 6-sided 15. And I want to be as close as possible to that hole. Because the bolt's already starting to strip. There we go. used a socket that was not quite as worn out. I use that other 15 all the time, so it's all worn out. The last person who did the hub probably wore out the head of that bolt because it's the tough one to get to. I can't get it by hand yet. There we go, all the bolts are out. Now you can take an air chisel or something in here, try to get that out. This one doesn't have a dust cover on it. It's been ripped off, rusted out, so you don't have to worry about hurting it. Instead of an air chisel, I'm just going to use a hammer. Hey, look, it's coming. Turn it the other way. I don't want to gouge the steering knuckle with an air chisel. There it is. We're going to need a little flathead screwdriver. So we got to get this wheel speed sensor out of there. There's one clip. The caliper's in the way. This one's zip tied on here. Another clip up here. We disconnect our sensor. Cut that zip tie off. There we go. Now our wire's out of there. Hub assembly's out of there. That's what's left of the dust cover that rotted off. See, it's real rusty in here, so I'm going to take my wire wheel and clean the face of this off. It's been changed before. Somebody really wore down the ears of this. Smashed right there, smashed right there. Probably used an air chisel. All right, got her all cleaned up. Put some grease in there, so if we ever have to take this off, it'll come out easier. Just kind of fit that hub assembly in there. Try to line up the teeth on the axle with the hub. Probably work a little easier if the wheel was straight. Straight-ish. We'll put a little grease on the splines. Don't want to slide on there real perfectly. I'll just put a little bit on there. Help it slide through those splines. There we go. It slid in. Alright, some of our bolts fell down from my excessive hammering. We'll try to get these bolts started by hand. Just get them put in there. Got to press back on this axle a little bit. think that one started. See if we can start this top one. And one more. We're just starting them. And we're going to tighten them down real tight. These are going in nice and easy. I like it. You might want to clean the threads off on your bolt. I'm going to turn the wheel one way. Where'd that 15 run off to? That's an 18. Here, 15. Oh yeah, put it back in the tray.
What do we do with our tools when we're done with them? Put them away.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Found it. Let me give this little torque down here. Turn the wheel. We got her in neutral up in the air so that the steering wheel doesn't lock or anything. Nice and tight. And this one we can't really get to. So we're back to using a ratchet. Where's that 15 ratchet? Can I put that back too? Where'd you go? I miss you so. Where'd it go, Casey? The gremlins took off with it. Deep well. It'll be all right. Pretty quick, pretty simple job if you know what you're doing. We've done all this in real time except for cleaning, which only took a minute with a wire wheel on an angle grinder. And we want to tighten the crap out of this because we're using a small ratchet. There we go. Got an axle. Well, we got our washer and our axle nut. Always use a new axle nut when you're doing a hub assembly. Always recommended. And check torque specs. Straighten out the wheel. And I'm not gonna do a final torque on this axle nut yet. What I'm gonna do is just get it snugged up. There we go, she's snug. Now we gotta put our wheel speed sensor back together. Little clipperoo right there. Goes this ways under the caliper where we got it sitting. Plug her back in. There's a little spot that it clips into up on the strut. Or the shock, my bad. And this little hold down's missing, so we're gonna zip tie it like we had it before. Time to put your rotor back on. Clean up your brake caliper if it's nasty. Your mounting bracket. Put a little grease in your slides. Don't drop the brake pads. There's those bolts. One started. Get another one started. Once again, we're going to cut the wheels to give us more room to work. Pull your pants up if they start sagging because you didn't wear a belt today. Put your pads in the proper order. Back in. We'll get our 18 millimeter on the impact and get these nice and tight. Other brake pad. If you got any grease on your pads or rotors, give them a shot of brake cleaner. And I like to put a lug nut on. Usually before I start doing all this, so that the rotor stays straight. Just show you that. Just so the rotor doesn't wobble around on you. Now we got some bad boots on this caliper. That's all right. We'll worry about that another day. Put our slide bolts back in. You get the gist of it. We're going to tighten these slide bolts down good and put our wheel back on. Take the center cap out. So the center cap that goes here that we took off at the beginning, I show that, but center cap off the wheel, bring it back on the ground and torque that axle nut to spec and pump the brake pedals before you take off because we compress that caliper. I have a torque spec book right here, a little mini book. We got here for Chevy Silverado. Should be in here somewhere, right? There it is, Silverado. 99 to 2009. Front, 177 foot-pounds. Torque your lug nuts down correctly, and there we go. That's how you do a hub assembly, real quick.